A maid solved a math puzzle even a millionaire's son couldn't. The shocking truth revealed. In the heart of the quaint little town of Willow Creek, whispers flew like wildfire about a peculiar event that would shake the foundations of its star-studded social scene. It all began on a frost-bitten afternoon, the sky bruised with gray clouds, as Eleanor, the unassuming maid of the Abernathy estate, grabbed her worn-out notebook. She had a secret, one so unbelievable it could make the skin of the richest sour like spoiled milk. The formidable $1,000,000 math puzzle posed by young Timothy Abernathy, everyone's golden boy, had stumped the brightest minds around. That is until a curious maid dared to try her hand at it. It wasn't just her humble apron and tired shoes that made the spectacle shocking. No, it was Eleanor's eyes, wide and unyielding, as if dancing with the electric thrill of defiance which captured everyone's gaze. In the sprawling, polished halls of wealth, few dared to confront the scion of a family known for their empire, and yet here she was, notebook in hand, ready to take on the impossible. Restlessness filled the air as the opulent guests gathered, their laughter spilling over like champagne from glasses. Whispers turned sharper, slicing through decorum like a knife. How could a mere maid even fathom such numbers? As Eleanor scrawled her calculations, the once cheery chatter transformed into an anxious hum, the kind that crawls up your spine and settles heavy in your chest. Even Mr. Abernathy himself, a man whose words commanded respect, had begun to fidget. He stood there, tall yet clammy, glancing back at his son, whose face was pale, regret mingling with disbelief. When the last of her equations fell into place, the room went silent, the tension thick as fog. Was it possible? Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As Eleanor presented her answer, a collective gasp swallowed the rich laughter that once filled the room. Eyes were wide, mouths agape, disbelief weaving its way through the crowd. A gasp erupted, then a murmur, people shifting uncomfortably in their silk and satin. What if this maid, with her frayed edges, had uncovered some lost brilliance hiding beneath layers of monetary dignity? Yet, just as the murmurs began to edge toward chaos, an unexpected second slam against reality struck them, a flash of fury from Timothy, his hands balling into fists, face burning bright against the backdrop of his father's stony gaze. "You're wrong!" he yelled, trembling with rage. But why was he so threatened? Why did it seem like Eleanor just tapped into a storm far bigger than the math puzzle itself? Outside, dark clouds rumbled, ready to unleash. Inside, the tension wove tighter around the room, leaving everyone breathless with questions. What kind of truth had Eleanor stumbled upon? What would unfold next? Secrets were buried deep here, and the reveal would shake the very foundations of Willow Creek. Eleanor stood in the center of the room, her heart pounding as Timothy's words hung in the air, sharp as shattered glass. She hadn't just answered a math puzzle, she had ignited something fierce inside the polished walls of the Abernathy estate. His fury seemed misplaced, a tide of rage crashing against her quiet determination. Guests shifted uneasily, casting anxious glances at one another. Whispers flared up again, words like incredible and audacity flowed through the air as they struggled to comprehend what had just transpired. In that once festive gathering, an undercurrent of disbelief surged, pulling everyone into an uneasy consensus that the tranquil atmosphere had irrevocably shifted. Timothy took a step forward, squaring his shoulders as if preparing for battle. "You think you can walk in here and undermine everything my family stands for?" His voice shook slightly, betraying the surge of insecurity bubbling beneath the surface. Eleanor's chest tightened, and her instincts urged her to retreat. A chill crept down her spine. It was as if he were standing on the precipice of something dark, ready to leap into a chasm filled with secrets no one dared to whisper about. Timothy interrupted Mr. Abernathy, his tone a low growl barely suppressing anger. The old man's face flushed, and he stepped closer to his son. This isn't the time for familial disputes. Focus on the matter at hand. But Timothy's gaze remained fixed on Eleanor, the girl who dared to challenge his world. You don't know what you're dealing with. This isn't just a game. There are stakes involved, consequences. The atmosphere thickened with his threat, each word painted vividly against the lavish backdrop of the estate. Guests exchanged furtive looks as tight as how Eleanor felt watching Timothy unravel, and it began to take on a life of its own. Shadows flickered in the corners of her mind, stirring thoughts she had chosen to ignore. What were those stakes? I didn't mean to challenge you, Timothy, she managed to stammer, fighting the quiver in her voice. I wanted to solve it. The desire flooded her, a task to prove herself, to show that worth isn't defined by job titles or wallets. But those thoughts felt wet and heavy like lead beneath the glaring scrutiny of the crowd. Laughter turned to murmurings of fear. Who was this Maid, this disruption in their world? And how had she crossed over so boldly into the shadows of privilege? Would they accept the revelations she could unleash? You don't get it, do you? Timothy snarled. You're just a maid. The words hung in the air, raw and bitter. Gasps erupted, and discomfort rippled through the crowd. He was losing control, and that could only lead to disaster. Maybe it's you who doesn't get it, Eleanor shot back, her voice steadying, igniting a flame of defiance. It's not about titles or wealth, it's about truth. A flicker of recognition passed over Mr. Abernathy's face as if he had been jarred from a long slumber. Enough. He barked. We'll settle this like civilized people. But echoes of doubt clouded the path forward, even for him. Outside, thunder crashed, resonating like a distant echo of the chaos brewing within the room. Rain began to pour, lighting up the darkness. The opulent setting suddenly felt like a trap, each droplet a ticking clock. What horrors had Timothy's desperation unearthed? And that was when the lights flickered ominously, plunging the room into a semi-darkness pierced only by lightning that illuminated Eleanor's face. In that electrifying moment of obscured visibility, she noticed something intriguing. A brief glimpse of an envelope peeking from Timothy's pocket, sealed and marked with symbols she barely recognized. What was he hiding? The storm was brewing not just outside but in the heart of Willow Creek itself. With secrets swirling around them like the wind, Eleanor's heart raced with a new urgency. What lay ahead could shatter everything even further, and as she began to realize the depth of upcoming revelations, she knew she had little time to act. Eleanor took a steady breath, her chosen path clear now. I will find out what this myth around your puzzle really is, and I will reveal the truth, come what may. And as she prepared to confront the looming storm, the question hung unspoken in the air: what darkness was lurking behind the Abernathy family's glittering facade, and who would pay the price for digging too deep? Eleanor's pulse quickened. The flickering lights played tricks on her eyes, shadows clawing at the edges of her consciousness. Holding Timothy's piercing gaze, she felt the electricity between them, the unspoken challenge, the tension of not knowing how much he was ready to lose. She had to unravel the mystery of that envelope. The room was a battlefield, and she was outnumbered by the wary onlookers. Guests clutched their drinks, casting skeptical eyes at the unfolding drama. Murmurs buzzed like wasps. Eleanor could almost hear the thoughts of the privileged elites: who was she to question the Abernathy lineage? The question gnawed at her like a festering wound. But she steeled herself. If she was going to rock this boat, she needed to know what secrets Timothy was so desperate to protect. Why had his father's legacy of power put him on this volatile edge? The pieces twisted in her mind like a Rubik's cube she couldn't figure out. Timothy, what is in that envelope? She demanded, her voice cutting through the murmur like a knife. He flinched, a flash of sweat shimmering on his brow, and in that moment, Eleanor saw his vulnerability. Stay out of this, he hissed, but the ferocity was fading. You have no idea what you're meddling with. Don't I? She shot back, emboldened by her own defiance. The tension crackled again, and she pressed on. What are you hiding? Is it about the puzzle? Or is it something deeper? Something that could bring your family to its knees? Timothy's lips tightened, a storm of emotions swirling behind his eyes. The crowd leaned in, breaths held, tension thick enough to slice. Eleanor was no longer just a maid, she was the wild card, the unexpected element that could change everything. Timothy. Mr. Abernathy's voice boomed, shattering the moment. You will tell her the truth. This embarrassment must end. But, Father Timothy protested, a flicker of panic igniting in his expression. No. The truth will come out, one way or the other. The old man's visage, once a figure of stoic authority, punctuated his words with a raw, desperate edge. Eleanor's mind raced, sensing an opportunity within the cracks of the Abernathy facade. Fine, Timothy spat, glancing at Eleanor with mingled contempt and intrigue. You want truth? There are things beneath this family's secrets that could ruin us, and if you reveal them, you risk everything. Cold dread crept along Eleanor's spine. These weren't mere family scandals, they were deeper, more sinister. She wondered what values stood firm in this family anchored in secrets. Then, before she could respond, Timothy's voice dropped to a whisper, gravelly and urgent. Meet me in the library midnight. I'll show you what you're asking for. The enthusiasm behind the murmurs escalated. The guests were electrified, intrigued, but also horrified. Timothy, no. Mr. Abernathy seethed, stepping forward as if about to breach the chasm of familial loyalty. You can't keep protecting what's buried, Father. Timothy snapped, as the once familiar bond between them warped under pressure. It's time for someone to know. A sudden clap of thunder drowned their whispering and rumors swirled in the tumult. Eleanor could feel the mounting pressure, the weight of eyes on her like a spotlight burning through fog. Okay, she agreed, the word hanging in the air like a drop of rain about to strike the surface of water. As the swirling storm outside mirrored the turmoil within, Eleanor felt a sense of resolve. She would meet him. But what awaited in that library could shatter every assumption she ever had about the Abernathy's or change her life forever. As the clock ticked ominously toward midnight, Eleanor's heart raced. What truths would she uncover? And at what cost? The thunder rumbled again, as if the heavens themselves anticipated the revelations lurking in the shadows. Would she unlock the cage of hidden darkness, or would she stumble into the very trap they had laid down in their web of deceit? Eleanor's breath caught in her throat as the clock's hands aligned, signaling the witching hour. The mansion was draped in shadows, each corner whispering secrets she couldn't yet comprehend. The memory of Timothy's eyes, those windows to a storm, echoed in her mind. She wrapped her arms around herself, fighting the chill that had nothing to do with the weather. The library loomed ahead, its heavy door carved with intricate designs, exuding both elegance and menace. It felt more like a tomb than a place of knowledge. Biting her lower lip, she grasped the handle and pushed with trembling fingers. The door creaked open, revealing shelves lined with dusty tomes, their spines cracked with age. A crackling fireplace cast flickering golden light, and her heart pounded like a drum. Timothy. Her voice wavered, barely above a whisper. No response. She stepped inside, jumpy with every sound, the rustle of parchment, the settling of the ancient wood. The air hung thick with a mix of mustiness and tension, as if the walls themselves had conspired to watch her. Suddenly, the door swung shut behind her with a deafening thud, causing her to jump. She turned, heart racing, eyes narrowing into the darkness. There was no mistaking it, she was now locked in. The sense of isolation turned the room into a pressure cooker. Then, from the shadows, Timothy emerged, his expression troubled. You came. The surprise in his voice was mingled with something darker, a sense of urgency that revved up her apprehension. What do you want to show me? She asked, forcing steadiness into her words. He took a step closer, the flickering light catching the beads of sweat on his brow. It's not just family secrets, Eleanor. It's about power, financial ruin, and lives at stake. He reached into his pocket, extracting that dreaded envelope. This can dismantle everything. Eleanor felt her pulse race with a mix of dread and fascination. What's in there? Timothy took a deep breath, his hands trembling slightly. The Abernathy name isn't just a mark of prestige, it's a mask we wear. Inside are financial records, a connection to illegal deals, and something else. He hesitated, the pause throbbing between them. Something that could ruin lives. What do you mean? Not just ours. Others, innocent people. I thought I could handle it, keep it buried, but... A sudden crash resounded from outside, jolting Eleanor, and then muffled voices echoed through the door. Timothy. Open up. Mr. Abernathy's authoritative tone cut through the tension like a serrated knife. Timothy's eyes widened, panic coursing through him. They can't find me here. I can't let them know I brought someone in. He moved to the door, but Eleanor caught his arm. No. You can't just leave me here. He turned back to her, jaw set, wrestling with a torrent of emotion. You shouldn't be here, Eleanor. This isn't safe for you. I'm already in. What's worse than the truth? She countered, adrenaline flooding her veins. Show me. Silence hovered, thick as smoke. The look in Timothy's eyes faltered, revealing a flicker of respect mingled with fear. Before he could speak, a loud bang rattled the door, forcing them both to jump. We need to go now. Timothy's tone shifted, growing frantic. But then he paused, a small smirk breaking through his fear. If they knew what was in this envelope, would they come for us or flee? That question hung in the air, electrifying the atmosphere. Just as he moved to open the door, the thud of footsteps echoed down the hall, growing nearer. Eleanor, we can't wait. But Eleanor's mind raced, piecing together the remnants of what she had overheard. What else is there? You're hiding something. No time. Please, trust me. His urgency was palpable, yet in that moment, she realized she had stepped into a maelstrom far beyond her wildest imagination. As the door rattled, Eleanor felt the floor shift beneath her, rocketing her closer to a destiny she couldn't fully grasp. Would she embrace the lurking devastation, or would she break away from the darkness, seeking safety? Before she could answer, the door burst open. Panic spread like a wildfire through the room as Mr. Abernathy stormed in, flanked by two stern-faced security guards. Enough games, Timothy. We've had it with your defiance. Eleanor's heart skipped a beat. The table had turned, and she was caught in a storm that could endanger everything she ever cared for. What now? Timothy turned to face her, desperation etched deep in his expression. Whatever happens next, don't lose your resolve. But resolve felt like a flimsy shield against the chaos unfurling before her. Would she ally herself with Timothy, or would she find a way to escape their tainted legacy? As shadows closed in, she realized, the truth would not come without consequences. What horrific revelations awaited her now? The air thickened with tension as Mr. Abernathy's imposing figure towered over them, the shadows stretching across the library floor like dark tendrils reaching for her. Eleanor's pulse raced, each beat echoing in her ears as the security guards positioned themselves near the door, their expressions betraying no emotion. What have you done, Timothy? Mr. Abernathy's voice was a simmering cauldron of wrath and authority. It sent chills running down Eleanor's spine. She teetered at the brink of panic, the weight of the envelope pressing against her thoughts. Timothy's reputation, their family's legacy, it all hung in the balance. Timothy stepped forward, chin raised defiantly. I'm not hiding anymore, Dad. The truth is too dangerous to keep buried. It's going to come out. Each word was a calculated risk, meant to ignite a spark of confrontation. Damar. Abernathy's lips curled into a mocking smile, his blue eyes icy. And you think dragging her into this will save you? You're playing a dangerous game, son. Eleanor's gaze flicked between the two men, feeling like a pawn caught in a checkmate. Please, she interjected, her voice trembling but firm. You can't just silence us both. The guards shifted, a flicker of surprise crossing their faces at her audacity. Silence. Mr. Abernathy scoffed, this isn't a matter of silence. This is about power and control. He stepped closer, exuding intimidation. And you, my dear, are in over your head. Timothy's jaw clenched, and behind the simmering desperation in his eyes, Eleanor saw something deeper, a glimmer of defiance mixed with fear. You think you can intimidate me into submission? This isn't just about Abernathy's fortune anymore. This is about lives that were sacrificed for your empire. Eleanor's heart pounded as the words hung in the air, the tension thick as a fog. Timothy's bravery ignited a spark within her, giving her strength. What kind of lives? She demanded, the question spilling out of her as the grip of fear loosened slightly. What are you hiding from me? Suddenly, an unsettling laugh escaped Mr. Abernathy's lips, echoing off the library walls. You really don't know, do you? This envelope contains more than just financial records. It's a ledger of every deal, every betrayal, and every life ruined for our family's prosperity. Eleanor's breath hitched. The gravity of his words anchored her in place. Lives, innocent lives, traded for profit. The world felt as if it was tilting around her, reality becoming an unsteady carousel. Get out of this room and forget what you've heard, he snarled, his tone sharp like glass. Or I promise, what comes next will make you regret it. Or what? Timothy pushed back, drawing protective boundaries around Eleanor. You'll threaten us like you have the rest? All we want is the truth. The guards exchanged glances, one of them tightening his grip on his arm. The atmosphere shifted, the looming danger palpable. Eleanor could almost feel the darkness swirling around them, threatening, taunting, a reminder of the lives that lay at stake. Mr. Abernathy's expression hardened. You're testing my patience. I suggest you think carefully about your next move, Timothy. This isn't a game. Eleanor felt a surge of defiance. We're already in this, and I refuse to back down. If we can expose the truth, we might save those lives, fix what has been done. Timothy's gaze met hers, a flicker of hope igniting a fire behind his eyes. But before he could respond, the air shifted dramatically. The distant sound of smashing glass and shouts erupted from outside, reverberating through the grand mansion. What the hell was that? Mr. Abernathy's voice fell an octave deeper, now painted with an edge of anxiety. Eleanor caught Timothy's eye, and without a word, they both understood they needed to act. Now! Timothy shouted, grabbing Eleanor's hand. The urgency in his voice filled her with adrenaline. They rushed to the side door leading into the adjoining corridor, the guards momentarily distracted by the chaos outside. Heart racing, Eleanor pushed through the door first, pulling Timothy behind her as they darted into the unknown corridors of the mansion, but before they could take 2 steps, a familiar voice echoed behind them, laced with command. Stop right there. They froze, caught between the looming shadows and the steps of betrayal closing in behind them. Eleanor's pulse quickened. Would they be captured, or would they uncover the secrets that had condemned so many? It felt like the final stand against a powerful tide, and she clung to the hope that the truth was worth the risk. What lay ahead felt like a fork in the road, one path leading deeper into danger, the other towards unknown salvation. What would they choose to discover? Eleanor's heart raced as she turned, adrenaline pounding in her ears. The deep voice trailing behind them belonged to Noah, Mr. Abernathy's right-hand man, a man known for his ruthless efficiency. If they didn't act fast, they'd be dragged back into Mr. Abernathy's web of deception. Timothy, we can't let him catch us. She whispered urgently, her grip tightening around his hand. They were nothing but shadows in the mansion's dimly lit corridors, but it felt like all eyes were on them. Follow me, he urged, his expression a mix of determination and fear. He pulled her deeper into the twisting hallways lined with family portraits, watchful eyes that seemed to judge their every move, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed, reverberating off the marble floors, inching closer. Noah was gaining ground. Eleanor's mind whirled. They needed to find a way out, a way to expose the truth without becoming victims themselves. "Tim, what's in the envelope?" she prompted, breathless. "It's everything: market deals, acquisitions, names of people harmed by our family's greed. I uncovered a pattern, Eleanor. Abernathy Enterprises has run its empire on the destruction of lives." The look in his eyes burned fiercely, his resolve palpable. "And it's only a matter of time before we're caught unless we find someone who can help." Just ahead, a door loomed like salvation. Timothy quickly turned the handle, shoving it open, and they stumbled into a small office cluttered with papers and framed newspaper headlines celebrating Abernathy's victories. The stench of dust and age tickled Eleanor's nose, but it was better than being caught. "Hide!" Timothy hissed, as the shouts grew louder. They ducked behind the desk, the shuffle of booted feet drowning out their whispers. "Where are they?" Noah's voice sliced through the silence, laced with deadly annoyance. "Find them." Eleanor's skin prickled with fear as they held their breath. The noise of the search party clamored on the other side of the door, slamming and rattling in frustration. It was a ticking clock, and each second stretched painfully, the pounding of her heart matching the tension in the room. "They're not in the library," one guard reported, frustration clear in his tone. "Search the grounds," Noah barked. "They can't have gone far." Moments later, the noise faded, leaving only the soft sound of Timothy's breath beside her. "We have to move," he finally whispered, eyes wide with urgency. "They'll come back." Just then, a large painting shifted slightly on the wall, revealing a narrow passageway behind it. Eleanor's breath caught. What if it led them to safety, or worse, what if it trapped them further in the dark? "Tim," her voice trembled, her instincts battling fear. "Should we?" "There's no choice," he replied, determination etched in his expression. "We have to take the risk. It's our only chance." Eleanor nodded, the weight of their decision heavy upon her. They crawled behind the painting, squeezing into the dark, musty corridor. Once they were inside, Timothy moved ahead cautiously, the dim light revealing just enough to keep them from stumbling. "Where do you think this leads?" Eleanor whispered, her voice barely a breath. "To the old archives," Timothy replied. "We might find more evidence, things my father would never want us to see. It could change everything." Eleanor's stomach churned at the thought. She knew the stakes were high, but the glimmer of hope surged. If they could expose Abernathy's empire of lies, there might be a chance for redemption, a chance to save whatever lives they could. As they crept deeper into the passage, the air grew stale, thick with secrets long buried. And then they heard a distant sound, almost imperceptible, echoing from the end of the corridor. Eleanor froze. Footsteps again. But these were different, no searching or wild pace, this was calculated, deliberate. "Someone's coming," she breathed, eyes wide. Timothy's face went pale. "We have to hide again." They flattened themselves against the cold wall, heartbeats racing as the footfalls grew closer, resonating against the very fabric of their desperate quest for the truth. As the figure came into view, a shadowy silhouette, Eleanor felt a sense of déjà vu rush over her. She knew that face, but how could it be? It was the final piece of the puzzle slipping into place, and Eleanor realized the truth they were about to uncover could upend everything. Would they be ready for what they found? Or had they gone too far to turn back? Uncertainty hung in the air, powerful and foreboding, as they braced for what lay ahead. Eleanor's breath hitched as the silhouette stepped into the dim light. Her mind raced through possibilities, denying the implications of the figure emerging from the shadows. There, standing before them, was Anya, Eleanor's childhood friend and the very person who had once trusted her with secrets of her own. How was she here? Was she part of this web? Anya? Eleanor whispered, every fiber of her being filled with confusion and relief. Timothy's grip tightened around her wrist. You know her. But the flicker of familiarity was drowned out by a sense of unease. Something was off about Anya's demeanor. Her expression was cool, calculating, sharper than Eleanor remembered. "Eleanor," Anya spoke, her voice smooth but carrying an edge. "I didn't expect to find you here. You should leave now." "What is going on?" Timothy shot back, tension brimming in the air. "Why are you here?" Anya stepped closer, her eyes glinting like polished steel. "I'm here to keep things in line, and ensure no loose ends disrupt Mr. Abernathy's plans. You two shouldn't have come poking your heads in." Eleanor felt her stomach twist. "You're working for him?" "Let us just say I have my reasons," Anya replied, a hint of menace creeping into her tone. "But you both of you are in way over your heads. I can't let you expose anything." The corridor closed in around them, the flickering light casting shadows that reached out like grasping hands. Eleanor's pulse quickened. Could she trust Anya again? "What do you mean?" she pressed, desperate for answers. "What do you know about Abernathy?" Anya shrugged off the question, her indifference chilling. "What you don't know can hurt you, Eleanor. Just know that knowledge is power, something you two should abandon before it's too late." Timothy leaned in, his eyes blazing. "We can't do that. We have to expose the truth." Anya smirked, amusement dancing in her eyes. "Truth? You think Abernathy cares about truth? This is a game, and you're holding a losing hand. You don't even know the half of it." Eleanor's mind spun. The stakes were higher than she thought. "Then tell us. Help us, and maybe we can figure something out together." But there was a flicker of hesitation in Anya's eyes that sent a shiver of doubt through her. "I'm sorry, but some secrets are worth more than you know, and keeping my position is one of them." In a swift motion, Anya turned to leave, and panic surged through Eleanor. "You're not just going to walk away?" she shouted, but Anya stopped, glancing back with a gravity that felt like a warning. "Find out what you're truly up against. Because believe me, you're not ready for the truth." With that, Anya melted back into the shadows, swallowed by the darkness she had come from. Timothy exhaled sharply, disbelief etched on his face. "What just happened? Should we follow her?" Eleanor shook her head, feeling the chill of uncertainty drift through the corridor. "No. She left us with more questions than answers. We need to press on and find what we came for." They stepped further into the gloom, knowing they had to hurry. Their instincts screamed at them, urging them to unravel the truth, but now, doubt whispered in the back of Eleanor's mind. How deep did this corruption run? Just as they turned a corner, they were met with a heavy steel door. It was locked tight, but a flicker of light from beneath promised something inside. "Do you think whatever is in there will help us?" Timothy asked, his voice low. Eleanor nodded, heart pounding. "It has to be better than what we've just faced." She rattled the door handle. It didn't budge. They needed to find a way to break through, but as they stepped back, the sound of a single figure echoing down the hall filled her with dread. "Someone is coming," Timothy said, eyes wide with alarm. Eleanor turned, dread pooling in her stomach once again. They were running out of time. Would she gamble everything to uncover the truth or succumb to the shadows that threatened to swallow her whole? As the footsteps grew louder, a cold thought struck her: could Anya be right about not being ready for what lay ahead? The door loomed ominously, its secrets locked away. As the figure drew closer, Eleanor realized that the fight for the truth was only just beginning. Who would stand by their side and who would turn against them? In that moment, a cold sweat broke on her forehead, and she whispered to Timothy, "We need to decide before it's too late." Eleanor's heart raced as the footsteps echoed closer. Timothy's eyes darted around, searching for an escape route. The dim light cast a haunting glow on their faces, and she could feel the weight of the approaching figure creeping into her skin like an icy breeze. "What do we do?" Timothy breathed, panic rising in his tone. We can't just stand here. We need to hide, she urged, her fingers trembling as she scanned the corridor for a refuge. Instinctively, they stepped beside the door. Its heavy metal frame shadowed them as they pressed against the wall. The footsteps slowed, and Eleanor's breath caught. A shadow moved under the door, then paused. For a heartbeat, time fell silent. "Please, God," Timothy muttered, squeezing her hand tighter. Eleanor's stomach twisted. She could sense the danger lingering in the air, thick and suffocating. Suddenly, the door handle rattled. The figure on the other side didn't bother to knock. The door swung open with an ominous creak, revealing a tall man dressed in dark clothes. His face was obscured beneath a wide-brimmed hat, but Eleanor caught the glint of eyes blazing with intensity. "Who's there?" The man's voice growled, slicing through the silence. Eleanor held her breath. It was like the air had solidified, trapping her in a thin layer of dread. "We need to move," she whispered to Timothy, but he didn't reply, eyes fixed on the stranger. A chilling laugh broke from the man as he stepped inside. "Looking for something, are we? Or should I say, someone?" Eleanor's body went tense. How did he know? "She means you no harm," Timothy finally found his voice. "Just let us go." The man stepped closer, the shadows swallowing him momentarily before merging him against the wall. "You think you can just waltz into Abernathy's domain and waltz back out unscathed? You're meddling in affairs far beyond your understanding." Eleanor felt the suffocating weight of his words. Abernathy's reach was far-reaching, and they hadn't fully grasped just how deep this ran. "What do you want?" she asked, trying to mask the tremor in her voice. "I could ask you the same," he said coolly. "But I already know. You're desperately seeking truth. What you don't know, could get you killed. Why should we trust you?" Timothy demanded, his voice defiant but trembling. "You work for Abernathy, don't you?" The man chuckled, but amusement didn't touch his eyes. "Not everyone serves him out of loyalty. Some have their own motivations. Like Anya, she made her choices. But your girl, she's fascinated by the consequences of her choices, isn't she?" Eleanor's heart sank at the implication. "What do you mean?" The man leaned closer, shrouded in the dim light like an apparition. "Anya's always been one who plays both sides. She might not be your friend after all." The revelation hung heavy in the air. Eleanor's mind raced. If Anya could betray her, who else could? Timothy shifted beside her, sensing her turmoil. "Get to the point," he growled at the man, frustration brewing. "Find the truth in that room," he said sharply, pointing toward the door behind them. "Abernathy can't afford to lose you, and neither can I. But you shouldn't trust me. Not until you find out where my allegiance lies." Eleanor exchanged a glance with Timothy, uncertainty swirling between them. The man's ominous presence loomed large, but the truth beckoned them just beyond the locked door. "Are you with us or against us?" Timothy questioned defiantly, evolving into a barricade of hope against the mounting fear. The man hesitated, then sighed, his stance shifting. "I'm on the side of whoever can help stop Abernathy. But remember, you don't know what's behind that door. It's a gamble." Eleanor took a step forward, her resolve hardening. "Then let us roll the dice." Just as the man opened his mouth to reply, a loud crash resounded from the hallway. The shadows seemed to shift and slither. The imminent threat was upon them. "Time's up," he said with urgency, shoving them toward the door. "Go, now." They stumbled into the room, the door slamming shut behind them with an echo that resonated like a death knell. Inside, the air felt electric, buzzing with possibilities, secrets waiting to be uncovered. As they stood amidst the clutter of abandoned documents and equipment, they felt the weight of choice heavy on their shoulders. "Are we really prepared for what's next?" Timothy whispered, the fear clear in his eyes. Eleanor inhaled sharply, expression hardening. "We have to be. Whatever it takes." But somewhere in the back of her mind, Anya's warning echoed like a distant bell. What if finding the truth wasn't the answer? What if it only led them deeper into the abyss? A flicker of movement caught her attention. A file lay half open on a dusty table, the name on it glowing in the dim light Abernathy. And as they prepared to explore, Eleanor understood. They were on the brink of something monumental, but the cost might be more than they could bear. What awaited them behind that door was a truth so powerful it could shatter everything they believed. And at that moment, the pulse of dread quickened within her. The real game was just beginning. What lay ahead could change their lives forever. Would they be ready for the truth when it came crashing down? The room was dimly lit, causing shadows to dance like restless spirits across the walls. Dust motes floated in the dense air, creating an eerie atmosphere that heightened Eleanor's anxiety. She turned to Timothy, who was already examining the contents of the old file on the table. His eyes narrowed, scanning the pages as if searching for an answer that might dissolve their bewilderment. "What does it say?" Eleanor asked, her voice hardly above a whisper. Timothy's brow furrowed deeper, frustration mingling with disbelief. "It's a list of names people who've gone missing. All tied to Abernathy. This could be the evidence we need." Eleanor felt the sinking weight of each name, a reminder of lives crushed beneath Abernathy's reign. She could practically feel their stories pressing against her like a thick fog. "We have to expose this. We could help them." "Yeah, if we can live long enough to do so," Timothy replied grimly. His voice cracked, showcasing the heavy burden of reality settling in on them both. Before Eleanor could respond, the door behind them rattled violently. The echo of heavy footsteps boomed against the metal, louder and closer. Panic surged through her veins as she darted a glance around the room. There was nowhere to run. "Hide!" Timothy hissed, and they both scrambled toward a towering stack of boxes, pushing themselves into the shadows. They crouched low, hearts hammering like war drums in their chests. The footsteps stopped just outside the door, followed by the unmistakable sound of a key turning in the lock. "Who the hell is in there?" A gravelly voice barked. Eleanor clamped a hand over her mouth to muffle her rapid breathing. The sound of the door creaking open sent a wave of icy dread washing over her. The figure that stepped in was massive, menacing, with a streak of silver hair that glinted in the low light. It was Abernathy's enforcer. She recognized him from the papers. His reputation for ruthlessness was well known, and the thought of him discovering them sent her heart racing anew. "Search every inch," he growled, his voice a thundercloud ready to unleash a storm. Timothy's fingers brushed against the file as he clutched it tighter, and Eleanor's blood ran cold. If they found that file it would all be over. "Please, just keep searching," a voice called from the hall. Someone was with him, a betrayal that made Eleanor's gut twist. "They could be anywhere in here, we have to find them." "Anya?" Timothy whispered, confusion etching across his features. "What is she doing with him?" "She'll sell us out, Tim," Eleanor spat, panic igniting urgency within her. "We have to get out of here. Now." Timothy nodded, adrenaline rushing through him. Just as they prepared to crawl deeper into their makeshift hiding spot, Abernathy's enforcer stepped closer, his silhouette casting an ominous shadow over them. "No one escapes Abernathy. You think this is a game?" he barked. "You don't know what you're playing with." Eleanor's hands trembled wildly as she sensed the tension coiling between the enforcer and Anya, his words draped in menace. They felt exposed, raw in their vulnerability. A sudden crash echoed from elsewhere in the building, jolting the enforcer out of his looming presence. "What was that?" he shouted, just as Anya's voice rose, demanding his attention. "This place is a maze of secrets." Anya's voice rang out as she continued to press forward, reluctantly drawing the enforcer's focus away from their corner. "If we don't find them enough," he snapped, cutting her off. "Focus." Eleanor exchanged a charged look with Timothy. This was their chance. They had to take it, but doubt hung like a fog around them. They were still at the mercy of uncertain loyalties, and Abernathy's network sprawled like a web, ensnaring them in a trap of danger and deception. Follow my lead, Timothy whispered, a fire igniting in his eyes. With hearts pounding, they crept toward a door obscured by crates. If they could reach it, perhaps they could escape into the night, but what lay beyond? The enforcer turned slightly, the shadows shifting around him like a predator. On the hunt. Go. Timothy urged, and in that moment, they exploded from their hiding place, racing toward the door. Behind them, the enforcer's growl echoed, the chase beginning. Do you think we can outrun him? Eleanor shouted, glancing back, the fear making her breath hitch. I don't know. Timothy replied, driving them forward with urgency. But we can't hesitate. As they reached for the door, the world seemed to slow. What lay ahead could either save them or be their undoing. But one thing was certain, behind them, Abernathy's shadows were closing in fast. Would they make it through or be consumed before they could ever uncover the truth? Eleanor and Timothy raced through the narrow corridor, heartbeats synchronizing to the drum of panic. Behind them, the enforcer's footsteps thundered like an oncoming storm, echoing off the walls, reminding them of the danger just out of reach. Tim, we need to find a way out. Eleanor shouted, desperation lacing her voice. They bolted forward, darting through the maze of crates and dust. The air felt heavy, suffocating with uncertainty and fear. Over there. Timothy pointed to a door at the far end, its handle glinting faintly in the dim light. Hope surged. They sprinted toward it, the enforcer's calls reverberating behind them, vicious and filled with threat. Now. Timothy threw the door open, propelling Eleanor ahead of him. She stumbled into a vast dark space, the smell of mold and neglect hitting her like a wall. Timothy followed, slamming the door shut just as a loud crash resounded against it. Eleanor gasped for breath, eyes scanning their new surroundings. This room was cluttered, old furniture lay haphazardly, and dust clung to every surface as if the years had forgotten it. A faint light flickered from a lone bulb above, casting ominous shadows. Where are we? She asked, her voice tinged with both fear and resolve. I don't know, but if we can find a window, Timothy began, frantically rifling through a pile of old furniture. Just then, the sound of pounding fists against the door sent jolts of adrenaline through them both. Tim. She urged, urgency rising. We don't have much time. Got it. He pulled open a window, its hinges squealing in protest as they fought against years of rust. The sound of the enforcer's voice grew louder, mingling with Ralph's low growl as he instructed the others to breach the door. Help me. Timothy commanded, and with trembling hands, Eleanor grasped the window frame. They pushed with all their might, and finally, it cracked open wide enough for them to slip through. Go. Timothy urged, hoisting himself out first, then reaching back for Eleanor, who crawled through just in time to hear the door splintering under impact. The air outside felt fresh and alive, the cool winds brushing against her face like a beacon of hope. Once on the ground, they darted into the dense thicket bordering the Abernathy estate. Heart racing, they emerged into the moonlight, panting and breathless as they pressed through branches and weeds. Where do we go now? Eleanor asked, clutching at her racing heart. East. Timothy motioned, clutching the envelope close under his arm. They needed to make it to the clearing just beyond the estate, far from the horrors lurking behind them. They ran, desperation fueling their feet as darkness enveloped them. As they finally reached the clearing, the moon illuminated their surroundings, striking an eerie contrast against the chaos they had left behind. What do we do with the envelope? Eleanor asked, looking at Timothy who was still catching his breath. First, we find a place to hide, then we figure out what to do with this. He shook the envelope, determination replacing the terror in his eyes. But they still needed to establish trust amidst the shadows of betrayal. Do you trust me, Tim? With this? Eleanor took a step closer, locking eyes with him. I trust you, Eleanor. We have to take this to the authorities. People need to know the truth. Timothy's voice wavered, but it was steady, carried by the weight of their shared fears. What if it isn't safe even then? Eleanor shuddered at the thought. What if Abernathy has too much pull? They can't silence the truth forever, Timothy replied fiercely. We can't back down now. They shared a nod, the bond between them forged through adrenaline and uncertainty. Before they could bask in their resolve, sirens blared in the distance, cascading through the air like an ominous song of fate. They weren't out of danger yet. Let us head down to the farm, Timothy motioned toward the dim lights flickering past the fields ahead. If we can reach the old barn, we might be able to hide. Eleanor nodded, stealing her breath. Let us go. They dashed toward the farm, hope mingled with uncertainty, their future teetering on the edge of discovery. As they settled into the shadows of the barn, they finally felt a flicker of safety behind the rickety walls. It wasn't much, but it was a moment beyond the chaos. What's next, Tim? Eleanor finally asked as they caught their breaths in the stillness. We make copies of the evidence, he murmured, eyes lighting up with a sense of purpose. We need to reach out to someone who can help us, the media, or maybe even a lawyer. Eleanor's mind buzzed with possibilities, the adrenaline fading into clarity. They had each other, and their shared belief offered strength they didn't know they possessed. Whatever happens, she said, we expose the truth. For those who can't. We finish this together, Timothy promised, feeling the weight of their mission settling in. And as dawn broke over Willow Creek, they felt the sunlight streaming through the barn cracks, illuminating their fight. But resolved they might be, the final battle loomed nearby, threatening everything they had fought for. Just when they thought they found safety, two shadowy figures appeared at the barn's entrance, the world outside shifting once again. Eleanor held her breath. Would they face ally or adversary? The truth they sought was still just out of reach and the storm was far from over, but together, they stood tall, determined to emerge from the shadows. As the tension crackled around them, the impending confrontation loomed larger than life. And with it, the resolution of their journey awaited, at last nearing the horizon. Before we wrap up this story, I need you to take action now. Subscribe immediately so you won't miss out on the next exclusive stories that are coming. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button right now to help feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ride. And for real, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who you know need to see this conclusion. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel, so let's do this together.